on solving simultaneously for x and y, and the mark allocation for these questions are usually between 4 to 5 marks. Now for question 1, we are given 2x plus y is equal to 4 and 3x minus y is equal to 11. So the whole point of solving simultaneously is that you are given two equations with two unknowns. So to solve simultaneously means at the same time. So you'll be working with both equations at the same time, and by the end of working with both of them, you would have solved for both variables. Now to start off, we choose one equation that we'd like to start with. I'm going to go with the first equation, and we make y the subject of the formula. So to make y the subject of the formula, we can take the 2x over to the right-hand side. So we have y is equal to 4 minus 2x. So right now we know what y is equal to, and we're going to take that and substitute into the second equation. Doing so, we have 3x minus, and where I have y, I've replaced it with 4 minus 2x, that is equal to 11. Now, when you're substituting, it's actually best if you substitute into a bracket, especially when you have a minus in front. Because remember, that negative has to multiply into the bracket with both the terms, which is what we're going to do in the next step. Doing so, we get 3x minus 4 plus 2x is equal to 11. So remember here, negative times 4 gives you negative 4. Negative times negative 2x gives you positive 2x. We're now going to gather like terms. We have 3x plus 2x, which gives us 5x. And we can take this negative 4 over to the right-hand side. When it goes over, it's going to add. It becomes positive. So we have 11 plus 4, which is 15. Now to get x alone, we can divide both sides by the coefficient of x. So we are dividing both sides by 5. On the left-hand side, the 5's cancel out. So we just have x alone. On the right-hand side, 15 divided by 5 is 3. So we have now solved for x. And now that we know what x is, we now take that value for x and we substitute into the previous equation. Doing so, this is what we have. Y is equal to 4 minus 2 times 3. Now let's simplify. So 4 and negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. So that is the value of y. So here we've solved simultaneously for x and y. We're now on to question 2, and we've got 2x plus y equals 6 and 4x plus 3y equals 10. Always choose the equation that you can easily get one of the letters to be the subject of the formula. So in that case, it would be the first equation. We can work with the first equation and make y the subject. Now to do that, we would take the 2x over to the right-hand side, and when it goes over, it becomes negative 2x. So right now we have y is equal to 6 minus 2x. At the moment, it's as if we know what y is equal to, so we're going to take that and substitute into the next equation. So substituting for y, we get, we're now going to take the positive 3 and multiply into the bracket. Now let's gather like terms. We have 4x minus 6x. That gives us negative 2x on the left. We can take the 18 over to the right. So we're going to have 10 minus 18. That's negative 8. And now we divide both sides by the coefficient of x. On the left-hand side, the negative 2's cancel out. On the right-hand side, negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4. So that is our answer for x. And now that we know what x is, we can take this value and substitute into the previous equation to get y. There we have it, 6 minus 2 times 4, which is 6 minus 8. and we get y is equal to -2. Question 3. We've got 3x plus 2y equals 13, and 3x is equal to 2 minus y. Now, if you look at both of these, it's actually easier for you to start off with the second equation. So I'm going to work with that and make y the subject of the formula. So here's how I've done this. I've taken the negative y over to the left to make it positive. I've taken the 3x over to the right, and it becomes negative. Now, it's as if we know what y is, so we're going to take this and substitute into the first equation in place of y. So, in a bracket, I've substituted 2 minus 3x for y. Now we're going to expand this. So we're going to take this positive 2 and it multiplies into the bracket with both terms. That gives you 3x plus 4. So positive 2 times 2 gave you positive 4. Positive 2 times negative 3x gave you negative 6x. Now let's gather like terms. 3x minus 6x is negative 3x. Let's take that 4 over to the right hand side. It is going to subtract. We would have 13 minus 4, which is 9. And now to solve for x, we can divide both sides by negative 3. On the left hand side, it cancels out. So we're left with x is equal to, and on the right, 9 divided by negative 3 is negative 3. Now that we know what x is, we can take this value and substitute into the previous equation. That gives you y is equal to 2 minus 3 into negative 3. Firstly, let's simplify. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And 2 plus 9 is 11. So that is the answer for y. Now question 4 is actually given in terms of a and b, not x and y. But it works the same way, right? It's the same method that we use. So to start off, it's actually easier to work with the first equation. Here you can easily get either a or b alone. I'm just going to get a alone, so we can take b over to the right hand side. It becomes negative b. So now a is equal to 12 minus b. Now that we know what a is, we can substitute into the next equation. So we've replaced a with the bracket 12 minus b. Now we have this 4 in front. That's going to multiply into the bracket with both terms. 4 times 12 would be 48. 4 times negative b is negative 4b. Then we have the rest of the equation. Now let's gather like terms. Negative 4b plus 2b is going to be negative 2b. Let's take this 48 over to the right hand side. When it goes over, it is going to subtract. We have 48 minus, actually it's 44 minus 48, which would be negative 4. Now to get b alone, we can divide both sides by the coefficient. On the left hand side, the negative 2's cancel out. On the right hand side, negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. So that is your answer for b. Now we can take that value and substitute into the previous equation to get a. Here we have a is equal to 12 minus 2. 12 minus 2 is going to give you 10. So there we have it. A is equal to 10. So here we've solved simultaneously for a and b. Let's now go on to question 5. So question 5 is interesting because we notice that our second equation has fractions in them. Now to start off, the first equation is the easier one. Here we can either make x or y the subject. Let's choose to make x the subject this time. So we can take the y over to the right hand side. It becomes positive y. And then we have the positive 4 next to it. You could have had it the other way also, where you could have had 4 plus y, which is the same thing. And now that we know what x is, we are going to substitute into the second equation in place of x. So there we have it. Now, what you learned in primary school is that when you are adding two fractions with different denominators, you need to get an LCD, a lowest common denominator. Between 5 and 2, the LCD should be 10, which means that in order to get a denominator of 10, your first fraction, both your numerator and your denominator will have to be multiplied by 2. That's how we'll get 10 at the bottom. And in your second fraction, both your numerator and your denominator will have to be multiplied by 5. Now simplifying this, what do we get? We can take this 2 and multiply into the bracket with both terms. We get 2y plus 8 over 10. And here we have 5y over 10 is equal to 5. Now we've got the denominators to be the same. And we know that once the denominators are the same, we can write it as one fraction. So we're going to add the numerators over the same denominator. If we simplify the numerator, we have 2y plus 5y, which is 7y, then plus 8 next to that. Now what's going to happen here is that you no longer want this 10 in the denominator. So to get rid of it, you can look at it as you multiplying both sides by 10, or you taking the 10 and you multiplying across. So 10 times 5 is going to give you 50. Now let's take the 8 over to the right hand side. It is going to subtract. So you have 50 minus 8, which is 42. To get y alone, you can divide both sides by its coefficient, which is 7. On the left hand side, the 7's cancel out. We are left with y is equal to, and 42 over 7 is 6. So that is your answer for y. And now that we know what y is, we can take this value for y and we can substitute back into the previous equation so that we can get x. It was x is equal to y plus 4. So that's going to be x is equal to 6 plus 4, which means that x is equal to 10. So there's our values for x and y. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications for more content.